As deadline closes, players are seeking a salary cap of $10 million, 30% of league revenue.
That frustration you are hearing is not just commentary or outside noise. It is coming from the very top, and it signals how serious this situation has become.
How do you give 30% of something you ain't got?
Adam Silver is reportedly at his breaking point with the WNBA's collective bargaining negotiations. And for the first time in years, the league is staring directly at a crisis it may not be able to talk its way out of.
What we're asking for is not sustainable for the business, Nafisa Collier said during an Unrivaled broadcast Monday.
As of now, the league is roughly 48 hours away from a potential lockout, and the gap between what the players are demanding and what the league can realistically afford is not narrow or negotiable. It is a financial canyon, one that threatens to shut down the entire 2025 season before it even begins.
I know what it takes to run a sustainable business. Yeah, but you ain't had this business for 30 damn years.
According to reporting confirmed by Front Office Sports on January 2nd, 2025,
there is a way. We're thriving in it. Y'all thriving in it. Your league only been around for 2 years.
The WNBA Players Association submitted a proposal demanding 30% of gross league revenue, alongside a salary cap increase from roughly $1.5 million per team to more than $10.5 million.
No, we don't even know if they even made a profit. Just last year when Caitlin Clark came, they was at a $24 million loss. Do we all forget this?
That is not a modest adjustment. That is a complete restructuring of the league's economic model. The league's response was immediate and blunt. Internal calculations showed that accepting those terms would result in more than $700 million in cumulative losses over the life of the proposed agreement. Not reduced profit, not slower growth, actual losses. The kind of losses that bankrupt teams and force owners to walk away.
That's probably what's going to happen on the 9th, probably late January 9th. No more extensions. It's going to be a strike that will be forced by the union.
This is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable because both sides are arguing from fundamentally different realities. The players are pointing to unrivaled overseas contracts and private investments as proof that money exists and owners are hiding it. The league is pointing to audited financial statements that tell a very different story. Here's the part that cannot be ignored.
Adam Silver is frustrated as hell. Like, why we can't get this deal done? Like, now that they're asking for down there half of the revenue.
The WNBA has been subsidized by the NBA for 28 consecutive years. That is not speculation.
Like, how are we gonna give you half when we don't even have half to give? They don't even have half to give.
That is documented fact. In 2023, the league reportedly lost approximately $40 million. In 2024, even with the so-called Caitlin Clark effect driving historic ratings and attendance, the league still finished roughly $24 million in the red. That context matters. The players are not wrong to want more money. WNBA salaries have been too low for too long, but they are negotiating as if the revenue already exists at scale when the financial reality says it does not. That disconnect is what has turned this negotiation into a standoff rather than a compromise. Now let's talk about what the league actually offered, because this is where the public narrative often breaks down. In early December, the WNBA proposed giving players 70% of net league revenue. Not gross revenue, which the players demanded, but net. According to sources familiar with the negotiations, that would equate to roughly 15% of gross league revenue under current projections. The proposal also included a salary cap increase from approximately $1.5 million to as much as $5 million per team, with max salaries exceeding $1.3 million and average salaries surpassing $500,000 over the duration of the agreement. That represents more than a tripling of the current salary cap. For a league that has never turned a profit, that is not a symbolic offer. That is a serious financial commitment, but the players rejected it because the structure was based on net revenue rather than gross. This distinction is not a technicality buried in accounting language. It is the core of the entire dispute, and misunderstanding it leads people to the wrong conclusions about who is being unreasonable and why. Gross revenue sharing means players are paid before a single bill is covered. Arena leases, team travel, coaching staffs, training facilities, broadcast production, marketing campaigns, insurance, and league operations all get paid after the players take their cut. Net revenue sharing flips that order. The league pays its unavoidable costs first, and then players receive a percentage of what remains. In leagues with massive, stable revenue streams, gross revenue sharing works because the pie is enormous. The NBA generates close to $10 billion annually. Even after paying players roughly 50% of basketball-related income, there are still billions of dollars left to cover expenses, reinvest in the product, and generate profit for owners. The system works because the scale absorbs the cost. The WNBA does not operate in that universe. The league generated an estimated $200 million in total revenue in 2024. 30% of that number is roughly $60 million taken off the top before a single expense is paid. That leaves about $140 million to cover arena leases across multiple markets, team and league travel, front office staff, coaching salaries, broadcast production, marketing, insurance, and daily operations for 12 teams. That is not a theoretical problem. It is a practical one. And remember, even under the current structure, without gross revenue sharing, the league still lost approximately $24 million last year. That loss occurred during the most successful season in league history, with record ratings, sold-out arenas, and unprecedented media attention. The math does not bend under pressure. It breaks. This is why Adam Silver's frustration has reportedly become so visible behind the scenes. Multiple sources indicate he believed a deal was essentially done in early December. From the league's perspective, they had already stretched further than ever before. They tripled the salary cap, introduced revenue sharing for the first time in WNBA history, and created a clear pathway to seven-figure max salaries. Silver reportedly expected a counter-proposal focused on details, timing, phase-ins, adjustments that reflect long-term growth goals. Instead, the players came back with a demand for 30% of gross revenue, a structure the league views as financially impossible under current conditions. That response forced Silver to personally step back into negotiations he believed were nearly complete. Now he is racing against the calendar, facing a deadline that could trigger either a lockout or a strike. Either outcome risks wiping out the momentum generated by the league's most successful season ever. That is the part every WNBA fan should be paying attention to. This is no longer just a disagreement over numbers. It is a moment where the league's future trajectory is being decided in real time, and once certain doors close, reopening them will not be easy. The league just experienced its best year in history. Caitlin Clark drove ratings that quadrupled in certain markets. The Indiana Fever went from playing in front of 4,000 fans to selling out 17,000-seat arenas. Merchandise sales exploded. National media coverage reached levels the league had never seen before. Sponsors who ignored the WNBA for decades suddenly wanted in. Broadcasters expanded coverage. Expansion conversations picked up speed. The cultural moment finally arrived. And the response from the players' union has been to demand a financial structure that analysts across the sports business world say would erase all of those gains and plunge the league into unsustainable losses. This is where nuance matters. It is not that the players do not deserve more money. They absolutely do. WNBA salaries have been embarrassingly low for elite professional athletes. Many players have been forced to play overseas year-round just to make a livable income. Owners underinvested in marketing for decades. The league was treated like a charity project rather than a growth business. All of that is true, but the solution to decades of underinvestment is not to demand terms that guarantee collapse. You cannot fix 30 years of stagnation with one breakout season and a revenue-sharing model that ignores basic economics. The league's offer of 70% of net revenue actually makes sense as a starting point. Net revenue means after expenses are paid. Players then receive the majority of what remains. That structure aligns incentives. When the league grows, player income grows. When costs decrease, player income grows. Gross revenue sharing, by contrast, pays players first regardless of whether the league survives. That model only works when revenue is massive and stable. the WNBA is not there yet. This is why the mechanics of the deadline matter so much. Both sides have already extended the deadline twice. First on November 30th, when the original CBA expired, and again in late December. Now the calendar has flipped to January 7th, with a January 9th midnight deadline approaching, and no agreement in place. The WNBA Players Association held a strike authorization vote in November. 93% of players participated. Of those who voted, 98% authorized the executive committee to call a strike if necessary. That is not posturing. That is leverage fully loaded. Under the current CBA, players cannot strike without terminating the agreement. But once negotiations enter what is called a status quo period after January 9th, the old agreement continues while talks proceed, and the union can call a strike at any time without additional authorization. No warning, no additional vote, no countdown clock that allows everyone to prepare. Once the league enters a status quo period, the threat of a strike becomes immediate and unpredictable, hanging over the season like a cloud that never quite lifts. That means even if the league manages to avoid a formal lockout this week, the danger does not disappear. Instead, it shifts into something arguably worse. A mid-season strike could occur at any moment, cutting directly into the calendar without notice. Every game, every sponsorship activation, and every broadcast negotiation would exist under constant uncertainty, and uncertainty is poison for a growing league. Sponsors do not invest millions of dollars when they cannot guarantee exposure. Marketing budgets are planned months in advance, not week to week. Broadcasters do not build programming schedules around leagues that might shut down mid-season. Advertisers do not commit inventory to products that could vanish without warning. And casual fans, the very audience the league fought so hard to attract in 2024, do not wait around for labor disputes to resolve. They move on to whatever fills the gap. This is where Adam Silver's involvement becomes critical. He does not have to be here. The NBA has subsidized the WNBA for years, but Silver could easily step back and tell ownership to resolve the situation on their own. The fact that he is personally involved in negotiations signals that the NBA still believes the league's long-term potential is real and worth protecting. But that commitment is not unconditional. There are limits to how long the NBA can justify financial and operational support if progress stalls or instability becomes the norm. A prolonged labor dispute would test that patience in ways no marketing campaign ever could. If the players force a strike or owners initiate a lockout and the 2025 season is delayed or canceled, the momentum created by Caitlin Clark's rookie season disappears almost instantly. Casual fans who just discovered the league will not wait a year for resolution. Sponsors will redirect budgets to safer investments. Media attention will shift elsewhere, filling airtime with sports that can guarantee consistency. The window that opened in 2024 does not stay open forever. Sports history is filled with leagues that had a breakthrough moment and failed to capitalize on it. Once that opportunity passes, it rarely returns in the same form. And here is the harsh truth that complicates everything. If the league collapses or a season is lost, the top stars will survive. Caitlin Clark has endorsement deals worth tens of millions of dollars. Angel Reese has built diversified revenue streams well beyond her playing contract. The faces of the league will be financially secure regardless of what happens next. The real cost would not be felt at the top of the league. It would be absorbed by everyone else, quietly and unevenly, by the players who have the least financial insulation when things go wrong. The ones who suffer most are not the stars with endorsement portfolios and national visibility. They are the players at the bottom of the salary scale, the players living on league minimum contracts, the players who budget carefully, who rely on every paycheck, and who were counting on the salary increases the league has already placed on the table. Those are the players who lose the most if this negotiation collapses. That is why the central question facing the players' union right now is not ideological or symbolic. It is practical and unavoidable. It is about outcomes, not optics. Is demanding 30% of gross revenue worth jeopardizing the best opportunity this league has ever had to stabilize, grow, and build something lasting? That decision is not being made in the abstract. It is being made right now, not in some future negotiation cycle, not after another season of growth. Right now, with a deadline less than 48 hours away and consequences that cannot be undone once triggered, the league has already put a deal on the table that triples salaries and introduces revenue sharing for the first time in WNBA history. The NBA's commissioner has stepped in personally, signaling continued institutional support. Team owners are showing a willingness to invest and expand if a sustainable framework can be reached. The players now have to decide what kind of future they want to build. One rooted in steady, long-term growth that aligns compensation with financial reality, or one driven by demands that sound powerful in press releases but collapse under basic spreadsheet scrutiny. So what happens next is the question everyone is waiting to see answered. Does the union accept the league's offer and continue negotiating incremental gains that compound over time? Do they enter a status quo period and hold the threat of a strike over the entire season, gambling that pressure alone will force concessions? Or does Adam Silver step away and allow owners to lock players out until demands return to a place the league can survive? We are about to find out whether the WNBA's breakthrough moment becomes its breaking point.